Hello all, good morning. I'm really sorry for the delay. There was some problem with GoToMeeting. We were not able to record the session. So today let's start with the session. Today in this session we are going to go through the details of the FAST formula. We are majorly looking only at the FAST formula definition and the advanced features which are provided in Fusion for writing a particular FAST formula in order to achieve a certain requirement. Like when compared to eBiz and Fusion, the basic setup or the basic syntax will still remain the same when compared to eBiz and Fusion. The basic syntax will still remain the same, but the thing is, as we all know, in Fusion we cannot write our own custom functions or packages. So what happened, what Oracle did is Oracle has given a lot of advanced features, like we do have change context, arrays, loopings, which will serve our purpose. Okay, so first we'll go have an overview of the FAST formulas, and then we will go into each and every detail of the advanced feature, and we'll see what are the new types of FAST formulas which are available in Fusion. Okay, so let's have an introduction, like using fast formulas. Fast formulas are the generic expressions of calculations or comparisons that you want to repeat with different input variables. Okay, so fast formula is like the entire is the base of a particular payroll, wherein we incorporate all the calculation logic and all the run results, all the result of a particular payroll will depend upon the fast formula which we write. So we can consider this as the main heart of the payroll. It is very important that we understand each and every detail of the fast formula in terms of what are the inputs available for a particular type of formula, what are the contexts which are available, and what is that we can do within a particular formula, so that we can achieve the required logic. So okay, we can use formulas to calculate payroll and for defining pay time off rules for accrual plans, and validate element inputs or user defined tables. Okay, so the functionality will still remain the same, like we can use it for calculating the payrolls, element input validations we can do. We can have a skip rule. It's like element eligibility, where an element needs to be processed only on certain criteria is being met. Okay, and we can even have formula so that we can create our object groups. Like yesterday you must have seen the creation of the object group, like it's like the assignment set or the element set, the terminology which we use in EBS. It's in Fusion, it's object groups. Okay, so we can have a formula there as well, and we use fast formulas for calculation of the absence duration, for the accrual matrix, okay, and also the compensation, for the custom configuration of the compensation. Okay, so in compensation, like we do have a lot of complex logic, wherein the array database items will come into the picture majorly. In payroll, there will be very less usage of the array database items. I'll explain you in detail what is an array database item. Okay, so let's go into the other detail. Okay, and the basic syntax of fast formula will still remain the same, as I mentioned to you before. Like when uh, uh, in EBIS also, and also in Fusion, we still have we have the default statements, wherein we default the database items or we default the variables, and then we have inputs, and then we have our calculation logic, where we assign the return variables where we assign the calculated value to our return variables, and then we have return statements. Okay, so that syntax, that particular format will still remain same. Okay, but only thing, the major change is like the entire database items have got changed when compared to EBIS. Okay, this complete new structure of database items which are given by Oracle, and all these database items are context sensitive. What do we mean by context sensitive? It's exactly similar to SQL statement wherein we give a date condition where sys date between effective start date and effective end date. It's like that. That is, effective date is one context, assignment ID can be another context, payroll ID can be a context. So there are predefined contexts which are available for each and every type of formula. We cannot have our own context. We have to use the existing parameters. We can say context as a parameter in order to restrict the data, in order to filter out on the data. Okay, there are predefined contexts which are available for each and every type of formula and each and every database item. Not all database items will be context sensitive. Okay, so we will see in detail of how to do all that. I'll show you a basic structure of a formula um, wherein we have default statements. This syntax will still remain the same. We have default for the database items, okay, and then inputs, and then we'll have the calculation logic, okay, and then at the end we return our whatever variables we want to return, we can return. Okay, this basic structure will still remain the same, but within the calculation logic, since we cannot use functions and all the calculation which we used to do in a function and call that function in our fast formula, as that feature is not available, Oracle has provided us with lot of advanced features. Okay, we will see each and every feature um, um, in detail so that we'll get a clear understanding of how to achieve a basic requirement or any complex requirement. Okay, so before going into the complete logic, I would like to let you know that the entire, majorly, all the database items have changed from EBIS to Fusion. Oracle, what it does is, for our convenience, it releases the database items list for each and every release. It's a very, very detailed and very handy document. Excuse me, very handy document which helps us in writing a formula, and it will also give excuse me, it will also give the details like what is the backend table column that this database items refer to, and what all are the parameters that it uses in order to give a particular data. Okay, I'll just show you the list. Okay, so this is the I'm sorry. Okay, this is the database database items that the Oracle gives us. Okay, so if you take one particular database item, if you see, okay, this is the database item name. This is the database item name. Okay, base username will be the database item name. Okay, and if this gives us, uh, what is the backend table column from where the data is being retrieved. This gives, this is the definition text. It's like pay input values, element type ID. Okay, and also it will give the data type, whether it is a number or whether it is a date or text. Okay, for array database items, it will have a data type like NN, DN, TN. Like it will hold multiple values. Okay, one database item, if it is array database item, it will hold multiple values with an index. Okay, we'll get into the detail of that once we go through the array database items. Okay, and here if you see context used. Okay, context are nothing but, if you can, when we compare it with the SQL, we can say these are the parameters or the filter criteria which it uses in order to retrieve the data. Okay, accrual plan ID, effective date, and the payroll assignment ID. So these are the three parameters which it uses in order to get in order to retrieve the value. what we can do is we can even change the context. We can change the parameters within a particular fast formula in order to retrieve the value of certain user as on a certain date. We can do a lot of manipulation within our fast formula. And if you see, accrual plan ID is a context which will not be available for payroll formula. It will be available only for accrual type of formulas. Okay, so I'll tell you that like which type of formula will have which type of context available, which type of parameter available, wherein we can change and set the context. All right. So this document is really very handy. We can refer to this document for everything, like what are the database items which are available and from which table it is being retrieved and what is the data type. If you see, we can see certain database items having NN as the data type. These are nothing but the array database items. Okay, so I'll tell you in detail about the array database items. All right, so we have to keep this particular document in handy so that we can write our fast formulas very easily. We can even search it from the fast formula window. I'll show you that also, but this makes it very easy because we can search based on the column name, backend table column name in order to find out the database item. All right, so this is about the change in the database items. Okay, so yeah, now we will go into the detail of the advanced features that are being provided by uh, Oracle Fusion in Fusion Fast Formulas. Okay, so the first advanced feature which is available is the change context. Okay, so literally change context, as we say, when we take SQL statement, we have certain parameters wherein we pass effective date, person number, person ID, or department, like that. So in our fast formula, what we can do is, say if you want to retrieve the grade of the same person as on a particular date, as on the 1st of January, then what we can do is we can change the date, effective date context, okay, effective date context to that particular date, so that what happens in the backend is the system will try to execute or get the value of that particular database item as on that date. Okay, so certain salary change or any certain calculation or any accrual, we want to calculate based on a grade of an employee as of the beginning of the year. There can be multiple changes in the grade, but we want the calculation to happen only based on the grade where the employee is in at the beginning of the year. Then what we can do is we can explicitly, if you know, I mean, as you all know, by default the effective date context for each and every formula when it runs is the payroll period end by default. If there is any proration, then it will be like prorate start and prorate end. Okay, but by default, all the fast formulas will execute with the effective date as period end date, payroll period end date. Okay, so if we want to change that context, if we want to change a particular date, to get the value as on a particular date, then we can use this change context feature, okay, in order to get the value as on that particular date. Okay, so for each and every formula, there are predefined contexts which are already available. We do have a PDF for that. Like if you take Oracle payroll type of fast formula, the contexts or the parameters which are already available are like the payroll ID, assignment ID, payroll assignment ID, HR assignment ID, the person ID, effective date, date earned, legislative data group ID. Okay, all these are the predefined database item, predefined contexts which are available for Oracle payroll type of formula. And within that formula, what we can do is we can change those values. It will have certain value already set based on the period when it is running. Say we are running a payroll for January. January 2016 for a particular employee. Okay, so payroll ID it will get from that person payroll relationship, person ID it will get HR assignment ID, payroll assignment ID. Okay, the difference between HR assignment ID and payroll assignment ID in Fusion is HR assignment ID is the assignment ID, actual assignment ID of the employee from the manage employment screen or the manage assignment screen. Payroll assignment ID is very much related to the payroll assignment. Like an employee will have single assignment and he can have multiple payrolls. So payroll is very specific. Payroll assignment ID is specific to the payroll. Okay, so the payroll formula will have payroll assignment ID. Okay, so all these contexts it gets by default. So if we want to retrieve a particular value, say a grade or a job or a salary, okay, or any assignment related data like his people group or position or full-time equivalent or standard hours or hours on a different date. Okay, then we can say like change context effective date equal to our required date. Within that change context segment section, we have to place our database item so that what happens is the system will retrieve the data as on that particular date. Okay, so I'll just show you a simple change context syntax. Okay, this is not fine. If we see here we have change context. Okay, here we have change context. And within this change context section, we are getting the effective start date and effective end date of an employee assignment. Okay, so the syntax will be change context, HR assignment ID, this will be the input value, and effective date is whatever date we want to change it, then that date. So this is the database item for the effective start date of the assignment and effective end date of the assignment. So what we are doing is we are getting the this is majorly to check if there is any change in the assignment, okay, within this date. Okay, as of that the effective date, what is the effective start date and what is the effective end date of the assignment of an employee. Okay, so this is where we use the change context. Okay, actually the majorly we use this change context in our initial developments because Oracle didn't provide the required triggers or required fields that we can add in our retro or in proration event groups. So we had to handle the entire proration logic in our fast formula. That is when we used to check, say if the salary change of an employee is based on the grade. Like there are various components, say basic, cost of living, transportation, housing. All these components are stored in UDT based on grade. Okay, and then the employee's grade has changed in between of a month, say on 15th of January. Then ideally in EBIS we had a lot of fields in order to add in the proration group wherein we can say, okay, if there is a change in the grade of the employee in mid of the month, then prorate the value. If there is a grade in the job, then prorate the value. Oracle didn't provide all these fields initially in the initial releases of Fusion, but now they have provided with lot of fields wherein we can add to our proration group or the retro event group, so that the system takes care of the change automatically. Okay, all these formulae which we developed before had become complicated because that proration or the retro logic was not provided by Oracle to us. So we had to handle everything. That is when the change context majorly came into use. Say if the employee's grade has changed in mid of the month and system is not identifying the change, then there was a need to loop through the assignment of the employee in order to get the change in the assignment. So to check when the grade has changed and then prorate the value accordingly. Okay, so this change context we can use for certain accrual calculation, or say if you want the gratuity to be calculated only based on the salary of when the employee has when the employee has joined, or when the employee is as of the January salary of the employee, then we can use the change context in detail. Okay, so the this is the basic syntax of the change context. Okay, change context, HR assignment ID. We can actually say, being in the current assignment of the employee, we can even refer, we can even get the dates or the values of another person or another assignment. Say employee got transferred um, okay, from one legal entity to another legal entity. We still want to refer to the values of that employee in the previous assignment. Then what we can do is, here we can change the context to that particular assignment ID and then get the values. Okay, so that is the beauty of the change context. We can set the context to anything, but only thing it doesn't allow is to change the payroll assignment ID, because payroll assignment ID is the basic what is the basic context which it doesn't allow us to change. If it is being executed for a particular person, it will be executed for that person only. The context which we can definitely change is the HR assignment ID, effective date, payroll ID, legislative data group ID, all that. Okay, so this is about the change context feature in Fusion. So it's like, we are passing date parameter or assignment ID parameter or job parameter or grade parameter. We do have grade ID, job ID, grade ladder ID. All these are the predefined contexts or predefined parameters which are available for a particular type of fast formula. Okay, so I'll share that PDF with you, wherein it will say in detail like what are all the contexts which are available, what are the inputs that are available for a particular type of formula, and what all we can change within our formula. It is in detail. We can you can refer to that particular PDF as well. Okay, these are the basic the context, change context, and it's like, this is the syntax, this is how we have to do it. It's like a, you can say it's like a syntax, it's like a database item itself. We have to use it this way only, we cannot change the name of it. Okay, so when we are changing the context, we have to say change context HR assignment ID equal to, you can assign any ID into it. Effective date, you can assign any date, date earned. HR relationship ID. See, HR assignment ID will be available for Oracle payroll formula, and also it will be available for payroll access to HR formula. We'll get into that detail at a later point in time related to change in the structure of Oracle payroll formulas. Okay, so this is the first feature, first advanced feature which is provided in Oracle in order to change the context. Okay, so then we'll move on to the next feature, which is nothing but the array database items. Okay, array database items are actually the replacement for custom functions. Okay, array database items, we can consider them if we want to compare it with PL SQL, then it's like a PL SQL indexed table. Okay, so one array database item will store multiple data, all the data. If we can say, we can compare it with one column in the backend table. If we take Payroll PeopleF, we have person ID, person effective start date, effective end date. Okay, all these details in the Payroll PeopleF table if we take. Okay, so there'll be one array database item for one column. Like for person ID, it will be like per extract person ID. Okay, so the database items will be will have ext, like extract database items. Okay, so what happens is, we need to pass the index in order to retrieve the database item. Okay, so this we extensively use in compensation formulae. When compared to the payroll formula, array database items comes into picture when we want to retrieve, the contact details of the employee, contact details, or when we want to retrieve the nationality, or not nationality, the religion of the employee, because there's no direct database item for religion. We have to go with the extract database items, the array database items, or we another use for the array database items in payroll formula or absence formula is the calendar events. We define calendar events in the system, so there is no direct database item for that. They are stored as array database items, um, like all the data, multiple data will be stored in one database item, okay, wherein we pass on the index in order to retrieve the value of that particular database item. Okay, so again, array database items are context sensitive. Okay, not all array database items are context sensitive, but most of the database items are context sensitive. That means if we take contact data, okay, contact details of the employee, then that array database item is the context will be the person ID and also the effective date. As on a particular date, who are the contacts which are available for the employee. Okay, and calendar events, they are not context sensitive. They are just open table. All the data will come. Okay, and similarly the nationality, that is also again context sensitive. It is based on person ID. Okay, so I'll just show you one array database item. Okay, if we can see this particular extract underscore person. This is for extract person contact details. Okay, if we take address details, okay, let me search in base user name. Contact type itself is not there. Okay, let us consider this address details. Okay, okay. It will have, if you take this address details, okay, so what it does is it will store a lot of data, like all the data of attribute 1 in this attribute 1 with the index. Okay, so we have to link it with the person ID, and if you see, the context which are available will be the effective date and person ID. Okay, so this particular array database items will fetch all the address details of the employee of that particular person on a particular date. Okay, so if we want to get the contact details of the employee, so what is that we have to do is the context will already be set, already be available, the effective date in the person ID. Only thing is that in order to get each and every detail, then we have to pass the index. So initially, like we need to set a dummy index and then increment that index by going on next, next, next. Okay, and entire thing will be within while loop. Okay, so unless and until, I mean, if a particular condition is met, if we want all, if we have got all the details what we want, then we can exit out from the loop. Okay, so I'll show you a simple syntax wherein we are getting the contact details. Okay, we are getting the number of children and number of whether he's a boy or a girl and what is the age of the contact. So okay, so in order to I mean this mainly is used in order to get the complete detail of a particular record type. Okay, instead of, I mean, we used to write a function in order to get say contact details or the address details. Okay, that, as since we don't have that functionality available, what Oracle has given is the array database items. Okay, with certain context available. Okay, so this particular data array database item will retrieve the data for each and every person. If you see effective date and the person ID or the context which are being used by the database item. Okay, so if we see, the syntax is little different. The defaulting statement is different for array database item. Okay, see, for a normal database item which holds only one particular value for that employee as on that date, this is the normal syntax which we say default for grade ID is 0. Okay, but since there is lot of data within array database item, so the syntax for defaulting the array database item is default data value for that particular database item is so and so. So we have to give default data value. Okay, so this is the syntax for defaulting. For a normal database item, we usually say default for. For this array database item, we say default data value for the extract database item is whether we even get the database item type here. It says NN here, right? So it is number, and with obviously the n is the number index. So the first in NN, the first one shows the number. Okay, so I have selected that's the problem. Okay. Okay, so if you see, description is contact type and the parameters which is used is effective date and person ID. Okay, so this particular list will be very helpful for us, in order to see like what is the context which are used. Like not all array database items use context. There are certain person database items, assignment database items which retrieve the data for all the employees as on a particular date. Those database items which we usually use are we use extensively in compensation formula, and the database items which might which there will be a need to use in payroll, I can think of only is the element entry values of a particular element, because element entry value database item is again not context sensitive. Say if we want to retrieve the basic salary input value of an element, of the element of an employee as on particular date, even though we change the context of that of the database item, it doesn't retrieve the value as on that date. So for such only array database, we have to use array database items. Okay, so I'll show you that usage as well. But so far we haven't got the requirement. Only in one of the client we did that. We used array database items for element entry values, but mostly in payroll there'll be very limited necessity of usage of array database items, except for contact or religion or the calendar events. Okay, so I'll show you the syntax of how to go through process through a array database item and how to retrieve the data. Okay, so we have seen that how to default the array database item, and if you see we will have a default statement like we have to give the initial index as -1 2 3 4. Okay, so this is the syntax in order to get the index, first index, like from where it is a kind of row num which we are getting for a particular record. Okay, we are getting the first record for the context or the row num of the first record, and this is the syntax like contact type dot first -1 2 3. Usually we give -1 2 3 4 because it is considered as a dummy index. If we give 1, what happens is we'll miss out the first row. So it is always better to give it as -1 2 3 4 so that we'll get the context, we'll get the index correctly. Okay, so once we do this, here we have to use a while loop in order to loop through all the details, or in order to get all the details from that particular array database item. Okay, so we are saying while while the detail exists, okay, only if that detail, if an employee is having a contact details, okay, then go into the loop and get the data. When all the data is done, then come out of the loop. Okay, so here this is the context. Again, the another feature which is given by Oracle is the usage of while loops. Okay, wherein we can have certain condition, check certain condition and loop through, and if certain condition is met, then we can have an exit statement to come out of the loop in order to avoid the multiple iteration. Okay, so usually if we see in duration, well, calculation of the absence duration, we usually use a while loop, and within that while loop we check the calendar events and then calculate the duration. Okay, so that is also possible. I mean, that is where when we use the exit statements. Okay, or if you think a certain criteria or certain values, value which we want is fetched, then we have an exit statement. Okay. So we have like contact type, contact dependent flag, contact date of birth, and contact person ID. For that context, for that index. So it will be like one row in the contact table. Okay. So this index is very important. Okay. This index means that say we are saying select star from for all people where person ID is equal to 1. Okay, so what this particular person ID is 1 and row num is 1. So it's like this is the first row which we are getting for the person from the per all people F table. I hope you are getting what is the importance of the index here. Okay, so this will get all the contact details of that person as on that effective date. See, here we explicitly didn't set any context because these particular database items will automatically have a context set, which is the person ID and the effective date. Okay, by default this type of formula will have person ID and the effective date set. Okay, here if you want to get the contact details or any other details of the array database item on any other different date, okay, then we have to set the effective date explicitly. Here it is not required, that's why we didn't set the effective date. Okay, so here we are getting all the details. It's like row number 1 and getting the details and doing some calculation here. Okay, and then we have to go on to the next row and get those details, right? So what we do is then we will be incrementing the index, like contact start date in contact start index is next. So this is the database item dot next. This is the syntax in order to increment the index. So what it does is it will loop through those many rows that are available for that person in the contact table. Okay, so in order to get the first row number, we are saying first, okay, and then we are checking if the data is existing for this particular array database item, then go in and get all the details. This index will work like row num, and we keep on incrementing the row num by saying next, so that we'll loop through all the data which is available for the employee in that table. Okay, it's like we are accessing the backend table by each and getting all the details each and every row wise. Okay, so is this concept clear? Concept of array database items clear? And here we use while loop so that it loop through all the index, all the rows which are available in the table. See, if the employee is having 10 rows or 10 contact details in the contact table, so this particular thing will loop 10 times. And internally we are doing some calculation. Okay, so the type is child and child age, there's some calculation. I mean, it is all up to our requirement, like what is that we want to perform inside the loop, inside the contact details. Okay, so this is the basic syntax and this is how we get. And see, like there is a certain group of database items, array database items, which we can use it together. Say you cannot use element database items, array database items with with contact details. Okay, there will be a base group name. Okay, wherein it's like different tables. These are the data available in different tables, so we cannot directly link it like the element and contact. We can link element inputs because they are linked through element type ID. So it's exactly similar to our SQL statement which we write. Okay, so we can link element input values, entry values, element types, all these database items together in order to get one value, arrive at a value by passing element type ID as the context, effective date as the context, and input value ID as context. Okay, so it's very much similar to SQL query which we write in a function, that we are doing it here in our fast formula using the array database items and with the index concept. Index is like, you can compare it as row number. It will keep on incrementing and it will loop through all the values, all the columns which are available for that particular person. Okay, so is this concept of array database items clear? Shall we proceed to the next concept? Yeah, this is the syntax which we have seen just now. Okay, in order to get the index value, value into the database item value into a particular variable, we say A of that index, database item of that index. Okay, in order to get the index, it is A dot first. We can even loop backward, like we can start from the last index and go till the first one. Okay, we do have count, we do have exist, yeah, exist, that's what we check, right? Next, count, in order to find out the number of rows which are available in a particular array database item. Okay, so this is about the array database items. See, this particular Excel sheet, as I told you, will be of very helpful. Okay, if you can see, we have a group name. That means what all database items comes under that group. Okay, so let me filter on group name instead of the username. Okay, so based on this group name, so what all are available in that group, usually we can use those database items together. okay, together in our fast formula in order to retrieve the value. Okay. I'll show you in second extract. Extract, it will be the group name will be the extract contact details. Okay. Let me type it. Oh, sorry, it's not different. Base group. Solution benefit extract. What's wrong? One second, I'll just show you how we can link it, the database items here. Okay, so here we have, so there will be one username description, definition, yeah, base user entity, correct. Here we have base user entity, okay, for contact relationships, UV, okay. So what we can do is we can club all these database array database items into one condition, like all these are like the different columns which are available in our contact table, okay, wherein we can use it in one while loop and get all the details. See, the base user entity name is the like it's like a table or it's like a view, we can say, wherein system Oracle has already created a backend query for this, okay. It's like the per extract contact relationships, okay, wherein Oracle might have clubbed 2-3 tables together with these as the parameters, effective date and person ID as a parameter, okay. So if you can see, there is a root query also which is available. This is not there, but usually if you see base root name, and it gives the whatever is the query which it uses in the backend, okay, where element entry ID is ampersand b1, if you can see, this is the parameter. So this particular Excel sheet, we need to keep it handy so that we can know like what a particular user entity is doing, from where is it picking up the data, what all we can use in order to get a particular data. Okay, so base user entity name is the one which clubs, which is like a view, we can say, wherein it is clubbing all the data, related data together and giving us the database items. Okay, so these are all the array database items which are available under this user entity, wherein we can use the index in order to get the value from for a particular row of that view or the table. Okay, so it's like instead of we writing a query, Oracle has already written a query for us. It is just that we need to pass on the parameters and the index, okay, and the row num conditions to get the data and do our calculation. Okay, so is the concept of array database items clear? Okay, let us proceed to our next concept, which is the loops. Okay, just now we have seen the loops within this particular statement, particular past formula. Okay, say we are saying a while and a loop, and then we have to increment it. Okay, we can even check a while condition, like while start date or end date is greater than or equal to start date, and unless and until that condition is met, we can loop through, and we have to increment that particular date or anything which we are comparing. Okay. Okay, I'll show you another case where we use while loop. It is in here only. Duration. This is again the same thing. This is simple one. Okay, so we use while loops in absences again. Okay, I'll tell you these details as well. It's a little different, different way of writing the absence past formulas in for accrual plans and absence type duration and absence entry validation. We'll get into that details as well. Okay, so this is again same thing. While exists, then we do our check and then increment it. Okay, so if a particular condition, if we want get the salary or the input value, entry value of an employee as on particular date, so then what we do is we'll increment it. Okay, we'll check if the effective date is equal to the required date, then get the value, and we'll write a simple statement here, say exit. Okay, so if the condition is met, then we'll write exit. So what happens is it doesn't proceed further for further processing. It comes out of this while loop. Okay, it comes out of this while loop completely. So this will help us in order to restrict the number of loop iterations. Okay, so if there is a requirement through through loop through all the records, say in contact details, obviously we need all the details. Or if you are looking only for us only in order to get the wife detail of the wife, then you can say if this condition is met, if the contact type is wife, then get the age or do some calculation and then exit. So we are restricting the looping number of iterations, looping. So we can use exit statements as well in our while loop, so that it will avoid the further processing. Okay, so this is about while loop and the way we restrict the iterations of a loop. Okay, so that is about while loop. Okay, loop statements are majorly used for array DB items. Loop statements can also be used to check certain conditions between two dates. Okay, yeah, this we use in our absence duration or absence entry validation formula. Okay, so we'll go into that detail as well when we look into the absence type fast formulas. Okay, and then another feature, okay, after loops, another one more feature which is available is to call one formula within another formula. Okay, this is a feature, I think we had this uh, in the accrual for eBiz. I think we used to call the they used to be another sub formula, sub accrual formula, I think, which we used to call. I mean, those were seeded ones, which we used to call from the main accrual formula. Similarly, here Oracle has given us a provision in order to call another formula within our fast formula. Say, if you want to get the unpaid days, and you are not integrating it to the payroll, if you want to get unpaid absence days in a fast formula of that for that period, and do some calculation based on that. So then we can directly call the absence entry validation formula by setting the required inputs and setting the context within our fast formula and call those formula. Okay, and also when coming to the Oracle payroll formulas, in eBiz, like all the database items related to the assignment screen of an employee were directly available in payroll formula. But now what Oracle did is Oracle has segregated them. Like in Oracle payroll type of formula, we cannot refer to any of the database items related to the assignment screen of the employee. Okay, we can refer only to the payroll database items like elements input values, element entry values, okay, and the person details, okay, like that. But we cannot refer to any of the database items related to the assignment screen of the employee. So what Oracle has given us is it has given another type of formula which is known as payroll access to HR. Okay, wherein we write a separate formula for in order to get the assignment details of the employee, and we do return it from that and call that payroll access to HR formula in our Oracle payroll formula in order to get the details. Okay, so the syntax for that will be initially we have to set all the required inputs, like what are inputs the other type of formula is having, and then we have to execute that formula and then get output. Okay, this is the basic syntax. We'll see that in detail when we go to the Oracle payroll formulas. Okay, so this is one another good feature which is provided by Oracle. Okay, calling one formula from another formula. Okay, we cannot call Accrual formulas from Oracle payroll formula because Accrual formulas need Accrual plan ID as the context. Accrual plan ID context is not available for Oracle payroll type of formula. Okay, so only thing what we can call is we can call the absence entry validation formula or absence entry duration formula, payroll access to HR formula. We can call the compensation formulas from Oracle payroll formula. Okay, and we can yeah, these are the formulas which are available. So available for Oracle payroll formula to be called. So the syntax will be, first we'll set all the inputs. Say if there are 10 inputs, you need to set all those inputs, like set input, the input name and the value. Again, say set input name and the value, and all these are case sensitive, like the one with in quotes are case sensitive. Once the inputs are set, then we'll execute the formula and then we'll get the output. We can have multiple outputs. Okay, we can say L hours is equal to get output L units. Then if we have 3-4 outputs from that formula, then we need to use our get output statement those many times. Okay, this is about calling one formula from another formula. Alright, so as a recap, if we see, we have seen on change context, we have seen array database items, okay, we have seen loops, and we have seen calling one formula from another formula. Okay, any doubts so far? If you want to ask me, you can definitely ask. Then we'll go into the detail of writing one formula. Shall we proceed then? Okay. Okay, let's proceed then. Okay, before going into the fast formula, I will show you the place where we actually go and create the fast formulas in Fusion. Okay, and there's one more thing which I wanted to show you is like Gargi must have shown you the creation of the elements. Okay, depending upon the legislation. Okay, what Oracle does is it's provide us a predefined templates wherein there are few options to be selected. Okay, based on those options, the inputs, the fast formula results, and balances, all those will be automatically created by the system. Okay, so if you create a standard earnings element, by selecting certain inputs, selecting certain values in our template, then system automatically creates a formula. Okay, with the element name earnings as a formula name. Okay, so there will be a lot of logic involved in it. We usually what we do is we comment everything and have our own logic, or if you think that itself is sufficing the purpose, we can keep it as such. Okay, so let's go into the system and have a look. Okay, payroll. Under payroll, we have payroll calculations. Okay, here we have. I'll show you the elements first. You must have seen the screen, but just for one more time, I just want to show you like what all system creates automatically. If you take basic salary element, okay, so when we are actually creating the element, it will ask for a certain fields to be selected, whether it is subjected to proration, whether it is subjected to retroactive changes, whether employee can have multiple entries, and whether like how the payment should be, whether it's a fixed amount or a percentage or a factor of something or a percentage of certain earnings. It will ask for various options. Okay, depending on those options, the system will create inputs. We usually select the payment, how the payment should be done is as a flat amount. Okay, then what system does is system creates the element with input amount. Okay, so these are all what system has created. If future one and future used to are what we have created, but other than that, if you say pay value, amount, periodicity, hours work, proration method, all these are what system has created based on the options which we select. And if you see, the system automatically creates the formula, and also it gives the formula results as well. Okay, and retroactive components, yeah, it automatically does that as well. It creates the base, basic salary retro. Now in latest releases, the retroactive element name will be basic salary retroactive. Okay, so the system does all this automatically. It creates lots of balances. Okay, like if you see basic salary hours worked, it will create a separate balance for basic salary and separate balance for basic salary retroactive. Okay, so we are more interested in our formula. Okay, basic salary earn is the formula which system automatically creates it. Okay, now let's go and have a look at it. Okay, so again from here we have manage fast formulas. Okay, so if you want to create a new formula, you can just click on create. Okay, and enter formula name, and all these are the type of fast formulas which are available. Okay, so here as the formula is already created, we'll just search for it, basic salary. Okay, it is the type of Oracle payroll. Okay, system creates it from the effective date from the when element is created. System by default creates lots of logic. So actually what we do is we can either comment it, or we can keep it and override it, or we can change it completely. So we can remove it completely, but the written variables we have to keep it like those many number of written variables which the original formula was having, because the formula results will be there assigned automatically. So if we remove those output variables, then the formula results will be invalidated. Okay, so you can remove all the seeded logic what what Oracle gives us, because it does lot of calculation based on the number of days working, and if you have to reduce the regular hours, there's a lot of logic which usually will be of will not suffice our purpose. So what we usually do is uh, we keep a backup of the seeded formula and write our own formula according to the requirement. Okay, so all these will automatically be there. Okay, all these inputs, only thing which we add is the prorate start and prorate end. These will not be there when a seeded formula gets created. Okay, prorate start and prorate end is what we get. Alright, so this is the screen where we go and create the fast formula. Alright, so I show you a very simple fast formula. This will not go through this. Okay. Okay, before going into the Oracle payroll type of formula, let's see the HR access, payroll access to HR formula. As I mentioned to you, say, if your salary is dependent on the grade, not the salary, exactly, or the components of salary like basic salary, cost of living, housing allowance, you are not entering it in the amount directly. It is being stored in a particular user defined table based on grade, based on job, or based on position of the employee. Then all those database items we cannot directly refer in our Oracle payroll type of formula. So what we do is we have to write payroll access to HR formula. Okay, I'll show you very simple payroll access to HR formula. Okay. Yeah. Okay, this particular payroll access to HR formula will not have any inputs. We can pass as many number of inputs as we want. Okay, but the context which are mandatorily required for the array database, or not, sorry, for the database items that we are referring in our payroll access to HR formula is HR assignment ID and effective date. These two are the mandatory parameters that we need to pass, mandatory inputs. In fact, we need to pass and set the context in our payroll access to HR formula in order to retrieve the values of a particular database item from the assignment screen. Okay, HR assignment ID is nothing but the actual assignment ID of the employee. We can get that from our payroll, Oracle payroll type of formula, and pass it here. Okay, as an input to the fast formula. Alright, if we see, we can pass as many number of inputs as we want, but mandatorily we need to pass. It can be any name. It's not like that SI underscore ID is a syntax that you need to have. It can be any name. Assignment ID, person ID. I mean, it can be of any name. It's not a predefined syntax type of thing. You can name it whatever you want. Okay. See, we usually pass like assignment ID, effective date, and mode. Mode is for our convenience. Say instead of writing multiple formulas in order to get multiple details, we have everything collated in one formula. Say you want position name for certain validations in our payroll formula. You want job name, you want grade name, and you want the grade ladder name, or the grade name, or the salary basis name, salary, yeah, and currency of the salary. All these, instead of writing multiple formulas, what we do is we just pass a mode saying that, okay, if we want job, we pass it as job, and within that if section we do our we use our database items and get the value. Mode is just for our convenience. You can have it or you cannot. I mean, it's not necessary that you have it, but mandatorily we need to pass assignment ID and effective date. Okay, because the predefined context will not be available for this formula. It is mandatory that we set HR assignment ID and effective date context for getting the value of the database item. Alright, so see here, we can use all the database items which are related to the assignment and salary screen of the employee. Okay, like grade rate value, grade ID, grade rate name, grade code, employment category, employee category, full-time equivalent, okay, assignment status, job, okay, contract type, all these details, whatever we want, we can, use it. And we can have, as I mentioned, as many number of inputs we want. See, but here it is mandatory that we set the context here, because there are no predefined contexts available for this type of fast formula. Okay, we mandatorily have to set the context, HR assignment ID and effective date. Okay, so, and it is very important, see, change context. If you, and you have to put braces, like only like open brace and brace, like so all the statements which we have put within change context will have this context as effective. See, if we close this change context here itself, okay, so then all these will not have this context available. Okay, so it is very important that we enclose the statements which we want this context to be applicable. We have to enclose them within a open and closed braces. Okay, so that is when the change context will take effect. Okay, if you just don't do it, just do change context and don't put braces here, then nothing is going to affect. Okay, so it is very important that we have open and closed braces, and within that we can refer to the whatever data assignment database items we want. Okay, so it's only in order to get the assignment data, Oracle has given us this type of formula, because these database items we cannot directly access in our Oracle payroll type of formula. It's just a segregation which Oracle has done. Okay, so from here we can get the termination date. Even termination date will be available in payroll formula, but usually we get the grade, job, position, the full-time equivalent, salary, and grade rate name, and salary basis name, salary basis currency, all that details. Okay, so as I said, mode is just for our convenience. It is not a mandatory thing. Okay, so here if you see ASG grade code, we are getting grade and then assigning it to an output, and here we are saying return output. Okay, if mode. Okay, if we want full-time equivalent, then within this we are saying output number, full-time equivalent. Okay, so, and this is the way we write our payroll access to HR formula, and there's a lot more things which we can do within our payroll access to HR formula. We do most of the logic within our payroll access to HR formula, and we call this in our Oracle payroll formula. All the calculation happens mostly in our payroll access to HR formula. Okay, yeah, I mean, this is the way we write, and then return. Okay, and then when we are calling this particular fast formula from our payroll Oracle payroll type of formula, we pass the mode based on the condition, I mean requirement, and two important inputs, whatever is needed here, like assignment date and the effective date. Okay, so for this payroll access to HR formula, it is two parameters that the inputs are mandatory, which is the assignment ID and the effective date. Okay, which we pass from our Oracle payroll type of formula. Alright, so you can do a lot of calculation here. And see here, if we see in payroll access to HR formula, I'm again calling another formula, okay, which is nothing but the absence entry validation formula. Okay, so from this formula we can call this type of formula. Okay, by setting the context again. Alright, and return, and it is very important that when we call this formula from our Oracle payroll type of formula, the output variable has to match. All these are case sensitive, the formula name, the output type, and the input output variable and input variable, all these are case sensitive. Okay, I'll show you another payroll access to HR formula, which is a little which has got a little more logic in it. Okay, here what we are doing is we are passing the period start and period end, and here also we are passing prorate start and prorate end, because this is for calculation of the allowances where the value is stored in the UDT according to the grade. So in our proration group, we should have added the change in the grade also as a value in our proration group. Then these prorate start and prorate end values will be passed. Okay, so we are getting the grade as of that prorate end. Okay, prorate end date, and then we are checking certain conditions like what is the database item that is available. Okay, sorry, not I'm so sorry. Depending on the grade, what is the UDT that is applicable? Okay, people group and grade. Okay, it all depends on the requirement. Okay, so we arrive at the UDT name and also the column name. Okay, and then here we have a logic of looping through the UDT, where there can be change in the UDT as well, say in the mid of the month. There was a requirement to include this logic as well. So we need to loop through the UDT dates. So this is a place where we, use certain date conditions for while loop and loop through. Okay, see here is the place where I've used exit, say where UDT value not equal to UDT loop value, then I'm exiting it out. Okay, we need to calculate the value based on that changed value. Okay, so we can do a lot of logic within our payroll access to HR formula. Okay, so entire logic we usually include in our payroll access to HR formula, and what we usually do in our payroll formula is just following this formula and returning the value. Okay, before in earlier releases like release 7, as I mentioned to you before, the logic was very complicated because Oracle didn't give us the columns to be added to the proration group or retro group wherein there is change in the grade. So we explicitly used to check if there is a change in the grade within the period, because prorate and prorate start date and prorate end date were just be the element start date and element end date, element into start date and end date. It never used to populate the grade change date. Now since they have given us the fields to add it into our proration group, okay, so the formula has become much simpler. Okay, so this is all about payroll access to HR formula. Okay, so we can include all the logic within one formula and pass it as a mode, or instead of having multiple formulas for multiple elements, where logic is almost similar, we just used to pass the element name or the mode, wherein depending on that value, depending on that parameter, the required value will be returned. Okay, any doubts on this particular payroll access to HR formula? I mean, if you have any doubts like what kind of database items, what is the logic, you can definitely ask me. Okay. Then let's proceed to, once we are done writing our payroll access to HR formula, okay, so, we can create it here, okay, as the type will be if you see, the type will be payroll access to HR formula. Okay, payroll access to HR. And here we give, say legislative data group is actually not mandatory, but it is always better that we create different formula for different legislative data group. Usually the legislative data group is a predefined context that is available for most of the formulas, and certain database items, they need this legislative data group ID to be there. Okay, so if we don't set it, if we create the what to say, the legislative date, if we create the formula at a global level, then for certain what to say, certain of database items, it is mandatory that we go and explicitly set the legislative data group ID, or when we are calling a different formula within this type of formula, then it is very important that we set the legislative data group ID explicitly, uh, and call the formula within that change context. Okay, so it is always better to create, say if you have multiple legal entities and multiple legislative data groups, it is always better to create different formula for each and every legislative data group. That's how we usually do, because sometimes we really don't understand why it is going into error, even after we set the legislative data group ID explicitly. Okay, so it is always better that we select legislative data group while creating any type of formula. Okay, so here we select the legislative data group and effective date. Okay, and then create the formula, the paste the formula here. Okay, once we paste it, then click on submit, then compile. Okay, if there is any error message, it will show the compilation message, error message here at the bottom. Okay. Okay, if it is compiled, then it will show the status as success. Otherwise, if there is any error, the error message will come here at the bottom. Okay, and here is the place where we can search for the database items. Okay, so if we say, okay, okay, so okay, so this is the place where we search for the database items, and it will also give the data type and the description, which is very much similar to the Excel sheet what we have. Okay, so okay, this is the place where we search for the database items. Okay, and this is the place where we can search for the existing seeded functions. Okay, like this usually comes into picture for accrual plans, get plan balance. But the thing is, it doesn't give what are the input parameters, what are the context parameters. So again we have to functions are not so friendly, user friendly, this particular screen, because it doesn't give what are the context parameters, what are the input parameters that we need to pass it explicitly. So again we have to go to the backend and check what are the parameters which are available for a particular function. Okay, so we use, the usage of the existing or the seeded functions is very limited. They are helpful only for accrual plans, in the accrual plans. All right. So yeah, this is about the payroll access to HR formula. Okay. So now once we define our payroll access to HR formula, we are not directly associating payroll access to HR formula to the element. The only way it gets associated to the element is through the Oracle payroll formula. Oracle payroll type of formula is the formula which we associate to the element. Okay. So in our Oracle payroll formula, we are calling the payroll access to HR formula. Okay. So now let's see payroll access. Sorry, the normal uh, Oracle payroll formula. Okay, I will show a simple formula. Okay, if we see, okay, as I mentioned to you, like these are the inputs by default which will be available in the formula. These two we need to add: prorate start and prorate end. Okay, and here what we are doing is, see, if we see CBD and HR allowances, these are all the inputs, okay, which we are passing to this particular type of fast formula. Okay, so when you are calling this formula, it is important that you know the case has to match for all these inputs, and you are passing a required value so that the calculation happens properly. All right, so if you see, you know, set input assignment ID. This is the database item for getting the HR assignment ID. Okay, ASG, HR, ASG ID, and pay and period start, pay and period end. Okay, which will be the period start and period end, and purpose and enterprise hire date and ACP termination date. Okay, this is for the enterprise hire date and then termination date, and prorate start and prorate end. All right, and then input representation. Okay, so this is just for our convenience. And then we are saying, okay, this is the way, this is the syntax, like how we set the inputs, everything within quotes, and this is case sensitive, and these are the variables which we pass, okay, values which we are assigning to this particular input. Okay, and then we say execute, and this is again case sensitive. Okay, and it is always important that a payroll access to HR formula has an underscore in the name. Like there should not be any gaps, like any spaces in the formula name. System accepts, but you know, while executing it creates a problem. Okay, so it is always safe to have the payroll access to HR formula name in uppercase and without any space, with to have it as underscore. Okay, and then L value, it can be any variable. Then you're saying get output. So here we are returning ultimately L allowance. Okay, so here we are saying get output. L value is equal to L allowance. Okay, so this is when the amount input is not entered or pay value is not entered. If it is entered, if amount is not is entered, then we do a different calculation. Okay, normal proration we do. Okay, so yeah, this is how we call the um, payroll access to HR formula. If you see the calculation actually which we are doing in Oracle payroll formula is minimal. We are just calling the payroll access to HR formula, and we are incorporating our complete logic in uh, payroll access to HR formula. Okay, and it is very important to remove the proration formula from the element. Okay, by default when we say proration enabled, okay, while creating the element, system automatically associates the proration formula. Okay, if you see here, by default, when we create the element, by default system automatically associates a proration formula based on the option we select. Okay, so if we are already handling a proration here, proration logic within our fast formula, it's because the number of days on which the proration should happen will vary. For some clients, they say proration has to happen at an annual rate, by arriving at an annual rate. And proration, and some clients, they say proration has to happen on a calendar day. Some, they say they have to happen on a working days based on the current month. Some clients say the working days, it has to happen in working days, but it is fixed, like 22 days every month, or 21.767. So we have to handle. I mean, we usually handle it in within our formula only. So it is very important that we remove the proration formula from here, because by default system will associate a proration formula. What happens is proration will happen on top of prorated value. Okay, so it is very important that we remove the proration formula from here. Okay, so is it clear so far on payroll access to HR formula and Oracle payroll formula? Shall we proceed to our next section, which is absences formulas? Okay, now let us proceed to the absences formulas. These are little different when compared to the Oracle payroll and the payroll access to HR formula. Okay, so for running a payroll, we usually write only these two type of formulas. Okay, Oracle payroll and payroll access to HR formula. Okay, these two are very important type of formula, wherein a lot of flexibility is provided in terms of the calculation. We do have very database items, loops, okay, change context. Okay, so there's a lot of flexibility, but only thing is that simple things becomes a little complex in Fusion, whereas things were much simpler in EBIS. But it's not like it is not possible. Yeah, definitely everything is possible, but to get a simple value, we have to write a huge code within the past formula. That's the only thing. Okay, and it will take a certain time to get used to the new database items. So still I refer to this database items list, so which is very handy. Okay, so and now let us come to the absences formula. If you remember, when we were doing the absence session, I have shown what all are the various absence formulae that are available, and where where all we use those formulae. If we take absence type, we have, you see, in EBIS we had BG absence duration or the core absence duration type of formula, wherein we used to calculate the duration and also do the validation within that and return the duration and also the validation, I mean error message there from there. But here Oracle has split the core absence duration or BG absence duration into two different set of formulae, which is like the global absence type duration and global absence entry validation. So in order to perform any calculation on the duration, okay, we have to use global absence type duration, and in order to perform any validations, entry validations, then we have to use the global absence entry validation type of formula. Alright, so and then we have seen the accrual plans, wherein I said we can handle most to most complex logic in our accrual matrix formula, wherein there will be no need to worry about global absence, accrual formula, partial rule formula, proration rule formula, all that, all those we really didn't use that extensively. Okay, partial accrual period formula is what we use for front-loaded plans, as I mentioned to you in that session, for terminations, midterm terminations and midterm hires. But otherwise, rest of the logic we handle in the global absence accrual matrix formula. Okay, and another formula which we usually use for most of the clients is the global absence carryover formula, okay, which have a very specific type of requirement. Alright, let's go into the detail of each and every type of the formula, like how to do it. Okay, there are again different set of database items for absences. They start with ANC. Okay, ANC underscore, usually all the absence database items, and even the tables, backend tables, they start with ANC. All right, so we will see, we'll go through the basic design of each and every formula. Okay, and I'll show you where we define the error messages which we usually which get fired when a particular condition is failed or when a condition is met. Okay, so first let's take up the absence entry validation formula. It again based on the requirement. Okay, absence entry validation, that is okay. Say if you are saying say education leave is or any other kind of leave or exam leave, it is only the employee is eligible to take only say 10 days in a year, and which is not actually an accrual. We are not giving it as an accrual to the employee, and we don't define it as an accrual plan. It's a normal simple absence wherein we say, okay, employee is eligible to take only 10 days a year. And depending upon other, whether the employee is a national or expat, again the what to say, the duration varies. And condolence leave, if we say, depending upon the reason, there'll be a different number of days which will be given to the employee. Okay, so all those validations and Hajj leave, if we take, the employee is eligible to take only um, say 10 days and once in his entire service. Okay, such validation we can handle it directly at the absence type. Okay, if you remember, I have shown you the maximum duration alert and also the occurrence limit rule in the display features. Okay, so such kind of, if it is only one occurrence, then we can handle it directly at the absence type level. But say in a year, he has to take only these many leaves. Okay, and certain requirement, like say if tomorrow is a public holiday, then if the employee is taking leave today, then usually if we define it as calendar days, then public holiday will be uh, excluded. So certain absences where employee is taking leave just before a public holiday, employee should not be allowed to take a leave, something like that, if there is any such a requirement like that, then definitely we can handle all those type of validations in our fast formula. Most of the clients, they give us a certain requirement saying certain absence type, employees eligible to take only certain duration in a year. Then we usually store all that in a user defined table and refer to that in our fast formula. Okay. Okay, so if you see, these are the database items which are very specific to absences. If you see ANC absence, ANC apps entrance, ENTRS is like the absence entry, absence type ID, duration, okay, absence type name, and entrance absence status CD, like the approval status. Okay, and there is only one array database item, okay, which is available for absence, is this ANC per apps entrance absence entry ID array. Okay, this comes into a major help for us, when we are supposed to do the validation for the entire year. Say, exam leave, if we take any leave, the employee is eligible to take only 10 days a year. And if he is trying to apply more than that, you have to provide a validation. So how do we get previous leaves? All these absences, these are, they have the context as the absence entry ID as a context. Okay, so this context we get it from this array database item ID. We will not get it directly. Okay, and this particular array database item has a context as start date and end date. Okay, so we need to set start date and end date context. So all the absences which are in between start date and end date will be picked up. Okay, so but there is a limitation saying if the absence is spanning between the years, and if you say an employee has applied for an annual leave from uh, or any other leave from December 25th to January 5th, okay, and if you set the start date as January 1st, this particular absence which is starting in previous year and spanning till the current year will not be picked up because the start date is not falling in this period. Alright, so it is always important to keep a span or give a grace period in order to pick all those absences. Alright, I hope you are getting what I am trying to explain. Okay. So if you see, there's one very nice document, which is given for absences. Absence and validation. Okay, if we go here, it will say what are all the contexts which are available. Okay, like contexts which are available, like absence entry ID, absence reason ID, type ID. All these are the contexts which are already available for this particular type of fast formula. Okay, it's a very good document. You can refer to this, and these are all the inputs which are available for this type of formula. Okay, so IV start date will be the absence start date, absence end date, absence duration, and we do have the start time and end time. All right, so and also the absence reason. All these are the inputs which are available for a particular this type of fast formula. Okay, so we can do whatever validation we want. It is very flexible. There's no limitation in it. Okay, then we do all the calculation. Only thing which I majorly wanted to show you is this particular looping thing, which is very important to understand. Mm, okay, so in order to call this array database item, we need to set the context as start date and end date. Okay, and get it. Okay, absence entry ID as we are changing the context. Okay, okay, and we are checking if this absence type ID is equal to the absence entry type ID, the one which is available in the context. Okay, then we have to see this particular array database item will get all the absences which are entered by a particular for a particular person. So we need to check if it is matching with the existing absence type ID. Okay, then and also one more thing in Fusion is that if we withdraw after the leaves are applied, submitted and approved, if we can employee can withdraw those leaves, like he can delete those leaves. Okay, there will be a record in the back end in the system, and also in the front end we can see the status as withdrawn, and in the back end the status will be aura withdrawn. So it is very important that we should not be considering such absences for our calculation. So if absence status not equal to aura withdrawn, then we are calculating the duration. Okay, so yeah, and the return variables which this type of fast formula returns is valid and error message. Valid will be y or n. Okay, so by default we make it as y, and if any of the condition is fail, then we return it as n, and we return the error message. Alright, so it is always error. We cannot we cannot show a warning message here. Even though we define the message as a warning, it will still show it as error only. Okay, so we can perform a lot of validations, all the required validations, and all the database items are available for this particular fast formula. Okay, element entry values. We can even refer to the entry values in all the assignment, all the person, screen database items, and all the, of course, ANC, absence entry and absence type, absence reasons, all these database items are available for this particular type of past formula. Even those details are available in this, what to say, in this document. Okay, valid and error message. Okay, so this is about the absence entry, global absence entry validation formula. Okay, and this we associate it to the absence type. Okay, any doubts? Okay, now let's go ahead with the next type is the duration formula. Okay, uh, so duration formula. Okay, which will the name of the type of the past formula is global absence type duration past formula. Okay, so absence duration is like as we have seen in our absence session. Usually, when we select the absence type or absence type duration as duration as calendar days or days. This is if we select it as days, the system will automatically consider or exclude the weekends and public holidays. Okay, so there can be certain requirement uh, for certain certain absences, wherein say if the employee has applied a leave from say Saturday and Sunday or weekends, employee has applied leave from Friday to Monday, and again he has continuously again he has applied from Wednesday. Okay, there's a gap of 1 day, and from Wednesday again he has applied. So in that case, when the second leave which is being applied from Wednesday to Friday should be considered as continuous. Okay, so they say, just for an example, I'm saying. Okay, so you actually Wednesday to Friday is 3 days, but since he is already having absence till Tuesday, even Wednesday should be considered as an absence. Sorry, since he is having absence till Monday, even Tuesday should be considered as an absence. Then the duration will be 4. Okay, certain all such requirements we can achieve it through the absence type duration first formula. Okay, again here this document is very good. It says what are the inputs and inputs and the contexts which are available, and what are the database items which are available. Okay, see if we see, yeah, these are the, and we can similarly we can use this array database item again to get our previous absence. Okay, if we check the absence and date is falling there, then we can do the requirement. I mean, we can meet the requirement. Okay, and actually there is one more thing, important thing which we didn't know of it before, is like IV start date. Even though it says it just passed the date, sometimes what happens is it even have the timestamp sometimes. Okay, so what happens is when we say duration is like days between IV start date and end date. Okay, so sometimes what happens is the duration will come in points, in decimals. It doesn't come as a whole figure. So what we usually do is we convert the date into character and again back to date, so that it will hold only the date without any timestamp. Okay, so actually this particular document, if you say it just says it's a start date of absence entry and end date of absence entry, but sometimes what happens is we have practically seen it in many of the clients. So it doesn't when we just say absence end date minus start date in a duration formula, it doesn't return a whole figure. It sometimes return decimals. So what we do is to char, and then we convert it into character and then back to date again, so that it will just hold the date instead of the time factor. Okay, so here also we can do all the database items are available here for this particular type of fast formula, and we can do all the calculation. Okay. So this is about the calendar, absence type duration fast formula. And now let's go to the absence accrual matrix, which is a major formula, which holds major logic uh, of the entire accrual plans, wherein the proration, adjustments, all that will be handled. Okay, before going into the absence form accrual matrix formula, there is one very important formula which is very important, is the accrual event formula. Why this is important? Because say if the employee, if the accrual bands of the absence type is based on the grades, okay, grades of the employee, or say length of service of an employee, or job of an employee. Okay, if the employee is going into a next band wherein the number of days or the entitlement has to increase in mid of the month, okay, it is happening in mid month, okay, then system does not recognize that change automatically. Okay, we have to explicitly make the system realize that there is a change in the actual land. His entitlement is going to increase from that day. Okay, so it is very important that we write an actual event formula. Okay, so for both front loader and for I want to say and incremental. Okay, for front loader we definitely have to write it, because the accrual formula will be executed only once, okay, and any change in between will not be recognized. For incremental formula, if there is, for incremental type of plan, if there is a change in the accrual bands at the beginning of the month, system will automatically detect, because every month the accrual matrix formula will be executed, and the in the change in the entitlement will automatically be detected. Okay, but if it is in the mid of the month, again system doesn't recognize. So what is that we are doing through the actual event formula is that we are making the system, or we are telling the system, okay, there is a change in the entitlement as on this date. Okay, and then we have to explicitly make an adjustment to the entitlement. The accrual doesn't increase on its own. Okay, so we have to make that increase in the entitlement as an adjustment. Okay, so that is what we do through the accrual event. In accrual event, we just written the date on which the formula has to execute again. Okay, and we refer to that date, do the calculation and do the adjustment on that date. Okay, I hope this concept is clear, and it is very important. This came in recent releases. It was not there before. Okay, in the initial release where the absence got changed, entire setup. Okay, so we'll see a sample actual event formula. Okay, what we do in this formula is for every period we'll return the date. By default, we'll return the period start date. Okay, so and also we check if there is any change. Say if the what to say if the actual bands are based on grade, we'll check if there is a change in the grade in between the month. Okay, and we'll say, okay, as on what date the increment sorry, as on what date the band is changed or the entitlement is changed, we return that particular day. Okay, so by default we return the first of every month. Okay, and then we check, see here the what to say, the bands are based on grade. So I'm checking just the previous entitlement and the current entitlement. Okay, if previous entitlement is not equal to current entitlement, then we are returning the event dates and the accrual values. So the again these event IV underscore event dates and IV and the accrual values are like the variables which we have to return, and these are again array variables. That means it can hold multiple values. Okay, so so we will return the values only when there is a change in the accrual. Okay, we'll return the actual value and the event dates. By default, event dates will be the period start date, so that every period it gets executed. Okay, only if when there is a change in the band in the mid month, then we'll return those event dates. If you see, okay, event date is calculation date and we are returning that. Okay, this is what we do in accrual event formula. So we are just telling the system, okay, there is a change in the band on this date and this is the change value. But only drawback here is, we cannot refer to that. See, even though we are returning the accrual value here, we cannot refer to this accrual value directly in our past formula, in our accrual matrix formula. Again, we have to do the calculation. Okay, only date is the one which we can refer. Okay. Okay, so this is about the event formula. Okay, by default we have to return the dates for all the 12 months. Okay, and even though you have it, like this particular thing depends upon the actual frequency. Okay, if you remember, we select the actual frequency for the actual plan. It can be yearly, weekly, monthly. Okay, the plans which we have done so far are monthly. That's why we are returning every month's date. Um, yeah, if it is yearly, then you have to return on just that year's date. Okay. All right. So this is what we do in our index formula. Sorry, event formula. Okay, accrual and global abs annual global absence actual event formula. Okay. So then comes our actual matrix formula. As I told you in that session, we can handle everything, anything and everything in our actual matrix formula. Is very flexible. Again, all the database items are available for this particular absence type. Sorry, for this particular past formula, and what to say, and we can do adjustments. Okay, see, actually the accrual which is done at the beginning of the month or at the beginning of the year is, that's it. The accrual doesn't increase after that. Okay, so whatever change in the bands, we need to make it as an adjustment. Okay, so we can make the adjustment according to the on the event date which is written by the event formula. Okay, there's a lot of flexibility provided in this formula. Like there was a requirement to override the seeded carryover expiry logic, that we can handle it. Or there's a lot of flexibility in this past formula. I'll show you a very simple formula, wherein here all the what to say, the entitlements are based on grade. Okay, and here what is that we are doing is we are getting those values in the index values and event dates which is written from this particular event formula. Yeah, and event formula name has to be similar to the accrual plan name. Say if you have defined your accrual plan as annual leave plan. Okay, the event formula name has to be the annual leave plan. You are not directly associating this event formula anywhere to the plan. Okay, it is only through the name it identifies that this is the event formula for this actual plan. Okay. Okay, so what we are doing is in this particular actual matrix formula, we are getting those dates. Okay, and we are doing the adjustment. See, again, these are the written variables which are available. These are again array variables. Okay, adjustment values, adjustment dates, and adjustment time. Okay, we pass the index to this and we pass the adjustment value, like what should be the adjustment value, whether it is 1 or 2 or 3, whatever, depending upon the increase in the entitlement. Adjustment date, like on this particular date the adjustment will happen. And adjustment types will be, it is the code which you give in the lookup for adjustment reasons. Okay, so we refer to that and do the adjustment here. Okay, if you see, if adjustment is not equal to 0, then adjustment value is accrual minus previous entitlement. Adjustment type will be the core. Okay. So return adjustment values, adjustment dates and adjustment types. Okay. Here we have already got the adjustment dates. Okay, so this is one additional feature which we have. Okay, we can do the adjustment. And based on certain other criteria, not only on this, if we can even do the adjustment in between for any particular on certain criteria, if certain criteria is met. Okay, and say if you doesn't want the employee to accrue when the employee is on unpaid leave. Okay, we can again refer to those array database item which we have seen it here. All right, this array database item, and for that accrual period we'll check if there is any unpaid leave, and then get those number of absence days and deduct from your accrual. Okay, so all those options are also there. Usually that will be the requirement, like when an employee is on unpaid leave, he should not be allowed to accrue. So we can definitely refer to the absence types array database item and deduct that number of days or the equivalent value from the entitlement. Okay, is it clear so far? I need another 20 more minutes to explain on this absence payroll formula. Is it okay? Shall we proceed, or you want to take a break and come back? Please let me know like how to proceed. Because tomorrow again Gargi will taking up the session and it will be on costing and for the or payroll and post payroll processes. So if you can just let me know how shall we proceed now. If you want to take a break of 5 minutes, you can definitely go and come back. Okay, sure. You can take a break of 5 minutes and then come back. Please just let me know once you are ready. All right. We'll go through the absence payroll formula. I'll just show you a simple setup of the elements and we'll go through the formula. All right. Okay. Uh, okay, let's start the session again. All right. So now the only thing which is left, which I wanted to explain you, is on the absences payroll formula. All right. So before we actually go into the formula, let us just have a look at the setup. Okay, what actually system is doing for us, and why there is a need to change in the formula. Okay, so if you remember our absences session, while creating the accrual plans, we associated it with the absence element. For annual leave, we selected annual leave element. All right, so that comes from the set of what we do in the element. Okay, so let's just quickly have a look at the setup of a particular absence element, and then what are the options available and what the system is doing for us. Okay, then it will be clear like what exactly happens when we are processing the payroll, how the absence payments or deductions comes into picture. Okay, let's take one now let's create one absence element. Okay, in the payroll dashboard area, again payroll manage elements. Okay, here we have the we select the legislative data group as a legislative data group, and the primary classification will be absences. Okay, so depending on that, we need to select secondary classification. Okay, we have maternity, other sickness, vacation. Okay, for annual leave or the accrual type, accrual plan type of absences, absence plans, we select the type as vacation. And for as the name says maternity and sickness, we select it as maternity, sickness, or even for we can select for maternity and sickness as other, because maternity we have to select the secondary classification as maternity or sickness when we are actually implementing the statutory payment. Okay, usually for maternity and sickness we usually select other, because we are not going to implement the statutory sick pay or statutory maternity pay. Only when we are implementing that we select as maternity and sickness. Alright, so here I'll show you the vacation. Okay, and automatically the category will be populated as absence. Okay, so once we do this selection, we'll click on continue. Okay, so we can enter any name here. Let's make it as anything. Okay, alright. Here if you see, we have very minimal details, but all these are very important. Okay, absence plan details. What calculation units are used for reporting? In hours or days, it all depends upon the setup which we have done for absences. Like usually, if the requirement is to make the unit of measure as hours, then we select it as hours. Okay, we usually select it as days. It all depends upon the setup. Okay, and what type of absence information do you want transfer to payroll? Okay, so for annual leave type of plans, we select accrual balances and absences. Usually we select this particular option. Okay, what happens is if we select only this particular option, it doesn't transfer the absences details. It just transfers only the balance details. Say if the employee is having entitlement of 22 and he has taken 3 days of leave. Okay, so what system does is it will transfer only 19 days. Okay, if we select accrual balances. Okay, so we usually select accrual balances and absences. Okay, for qualification type of accrual plan, we need to select qualification absences, and for no entitlement absences, like the one we did in our absences session was unpaid leave. Okay, qualification was sick leave or maternity leave. Okay, so according to our absence plan, we need to select these options. For accruals, we usually select accrual balances and option and absences. Okay, once this option is selected, next this screen is very important. Okay, calculate absence liability. Okay, it's like whether you want to calculate the accrual. If you want to see, usually what employers do is, it's an annual leave is a type of absence with payment, right? So they have to keep that amount aside. They have to accrue it to pay the employee when he goes on leave. So if you want to calculate that liability, absence liability, then you select yes, otherwise select no. Okay, okay. Usually it again depends on the requirement. We select it as yes if we are calculating the liability. And here, which rate should the liability balance calculation use? Like, yeah, here comes actually these rates, managed rate definition. I think this is one part which I left when we were doing the absences session. Okay, tomorrow, like. We will take this up, manage rate definitions. Okay, so we should have a predefined rate, wherein we select the element, the balance dimension and all that details. Okay, so we have a rate defined. Okay. Actually what system internally does is it does the calculation, the amount to be approved every month based on the state. Okay, based on this rate we select, and we can override that particular calculation. Okay, it is not necessary that once we select only this particular thing will happen. Okay, it's not necessary. We can override the calculation. All right. Does this plan enable balance payments when enrollment ends? This is the same option which we have seen when we were creating the absence plans. Okay, we say yes. Okay, so when the employee is terminated, what happens is he'll get an element, say final disbursement with the remaining entitlement. Okay, does this plan enable partial payment of balances? We say yes. We have selected the option, if you remember, if we can relate. In the absence plan, we have selected discretionary disbursement as yes. So okay, so then we need to select this option. So what internally system will do is it will create each and every element for the option we have selected. Okay, element, it will create the formula based on the rate that we have selected. Okay, and all the required details it will do. Okay, how do you want to reduce earnings from employees not requiring a time card? This we select it as the default one. Okay, reduce regular earnings by absence payment. There is no other option, to for us to not to the absence payment or deduction to happen. Okay, so we need to select this only when we select the rate. Okay, so once these options are done, okay, it's just the review page. We'll click on submit. Okay, so when we select qualification or no entitlement, it will almost be the similar screen, but it will not ask for partial payment or discretionary disbursement or final disbursement. It will just ask what will be the payment or deduction rate. That's the only thing which asks. Okay, now we'll see what all elements does the system create depending upon the options we select. Okay, it will be the base element with base name, like the test element which we have created, and it will create an accrual element. Okay, and it will create entitlement element, it will create liability element, it will create a final disbursement element. Okay, so these are the various elements which system creates along with its formula and along with its calculation logic. So what usually happens is all the calculation, all this lot of logic behind is not really required and it won't suffice our purpose. Okay, so what we usually do is we comment the seeded logic, and the problem with annual leave is this type of accrual plan is system automatically calculate the absence payments because it's absence with payment, right? We have selected, if you remember, in our absence screen, we have selected the payment percentage as 100. So the employee will be paid separately again apart from his regular pay. So there will be a need definitely to change our fast formulas in order to make those payment as zero, because we don't pay the employee. Most of the clients, the requirement will be like there'll be no need to pay the employee separately when the employee is going on annual leave. Only for sick leave and unpaid leave there will be certain calculation logic. Okay, so all that we handle in our entitlement fast formula. Okay, so when if you remember, like when we applied a leave, I have shown you the calculation card, absences calculation card, wherein accrual element by default it creates every month when we run the accrual process. But when we apply for an absence, it's the entitlement element, okay, that gets created. Alright, so all the calculation happens in our entitlement element. So it is very important that we comment those fast formulas which in order not to return anything and have our own logic of payment or deduction in the entitlement element. Okay, I'll show you that as well once this is created. Just taking ages. Okay, I'm not very sure why it is taking a long time over there. Okay, let me just show you in an existing instance. Okay, here if you see manage elements, if you take annual leave, okay, if you see depending upon the options we select while creating in our while creating our element, you must have seen now, right? So annual leave is the base element, okay, which we actually integrated to the payroll, okay, which we actually associate in our absence plan, okay. Annual leave accrual is the element which does the liability calculation. Okay, if you see for each and every element, there will be another associated two elements. One is the calculator, one is the result. Okay, result element is the actual element which populates the amount. Okay, which populates the final result. Okay, and discretionary disbursement is like, if we want to leave encashment concept is there. For that, we usually select this option. Okay, if you want to pay an employee partially in, in during any time of the year, then we use this option, the discretionary disbursement. Again, if you see for this element, it has a calculator element and a result element. All right, so this element will internally call this, and ultimately it will put the detail in the result element, whatever the pay value in the result element. Okay. Fine, no problem. Annual leave entitlement is the other element which actually, which entry is actually created when the employee applies for leave. Okay, and all the payment or the deduction logic is held in this particular element. Okay, elements fast formula. Again, entitlement, there will be only one entry, okay, from absence start date to end date. And it will internally call calculator, and calculator will call result element, and the pay value will coming in result element. Okay, see if an employee has taken 10 days of leave, okay, there will be one entitlement element entry, but in the run results if we see, there will be 10 result elements. Okay, so there will be a result element for each and every day. Okay, there will be a calculation which is done separately for each and every day. That's how the seeded system is designed. But then usually users don't want that, that kind of detail to happen. So there's no way that we can avoid it. uh, we can either have a skip rule not to call and return the result, but what happens is again the absences balances will go for a toss, like, because through this element the number of days of absence will be fed into a seeded balances which we can refer. So we usually, what we do is we only make the pay value as 0, okay, and then do rest of the logic in our entitlement formula and return the amount to be deducted or paid to the employee through one element only. Otherwise, there will be like, the run results will be a mess. I mean, it's a lot of confusion because of this, individual result element for each and every day. All right, so it is very, the main formula which we have to touch in order to, avoid multiple elements, payment through multiple elements, is the entire annual leave entitlement base and annual leave entitlement result. These are the only two formula. Only these two formula also I will be showing you now. Okay, and annual leave final disbursement, it comes only when the employee is terminated. Okay, and he will be paid through the same element. All right, so this much of setup the system is doing. Let's take sick leave. Okay, for sick leave the number of elements will be a little less because there is no option of discretionary disbursement, final disbursement, liability calculation, all that is not there. So it creates only the accrual and the entitlement element. Similarly, same thing is for unpaid leave. Okay, it creates unpaid leave entitlement. Okay, right. So now let's go into the formula, like what is the change that we need to do in order to avoid uh, unnecessary processing and unnecessary payments coming up. By default, the system, whether it is annual leave, or sick leave or unpaid leave, whatever leave, by default it creates the it does the calculation and returns the payments. For annual leave, we usually don't need any kind of payments. So what we simply do is we simply modify the result fast formula. So this is what the system is doing. There's a lot of calculation, okay, seeded calculation which it does, which internally calls for some entitlement calculator formula. Okay, this is again a seeded formula. It internally checks for the rate which is associated, and it does huge lot of calculations, which is really not required. Okay, so what we simply do is here net pay, payment and pay value, we make it 0. Okay, this is the only change which we do in for absences formula in the entitlement result formula, because result is the main element which main fast formula which calls and puts the payments or deductions. Okay, so this is the place where we have to do the change. Okay, no need to understand, no need to break ahead understanding all this, because it's a seeded formula, a lot of calculation inside. Okay, so it's not necessary to make things so complex. So okay, the only thing what we do is net pay, payment and pay value, we make it 0. Okay, unit, we keep it, we don't negate it, because unit is the like the number of days. It will put an entry for each and every day, like 1 day, 2 days, and it will go and feed into the balance. Okay, so what we can do, what we usually do is we make everything process. Okay, we make these units to feed into a particular balance. This is a seated balance which gets created, and in another information formula we have a complete logic, wherein if say unpaid leave, he has taken 6 days of leave in that month. So 6 days, the amount equivalent to 6 days has to be reduced from his payment. So we have recurring information element associated to the employee, which gets processed only when there is an unpaid leave or sick leave for the employee, and do our calculations there. And also one more drawback I can say in this absences type of formula, like where absence elements is, we cannot refer to the balances. Okay, so say if we have to refer to the basic salary balance and do the calculation or deduction from there, we cannot refer, because that particular context will not be set, and will not be allowed to set the context as well. Okay, so if you are referring to the element entries directly, then you can have your formula written in your entitlement element. Okay, so like this. So this is the entitlement formula. Here, in one of the client, there was directly requirement just to refer to the element entry values, like if you say ASG entry value. Okay, so directly the entire logic was written here, and unpaid leave amount was returned to a deduction element. Okay, voluntary deduction element. Okay, but there can be cases, okay, where we have to refer to certain balances. Okay, run result balances. In this particular type of formula, we cannot refer to balances. So the only solution we do for major clients is that we keep this unit. Okay, we it will feed to a balance. Okay, so from there we have a recurring information element with a higher processing priority than this entitlement element. Therein we refer to these number of days and get the balances and do the calculation and return the deduction amount. Okay, so that is how we do. Okay, so if you are directly referring to entry values, then you can have the logic in the base element, entitlement base fast formula. Okay, so here it was a simple requirement to do the calculation based on um, the entry values. Okay, so the amount divided by working days into period unpaid leaves. Then return the value. Okay, so this is all about the absences. So two formula majorly which you need to touch when we are doing the absences is the entitlement formulas. There will be two entitlement formula: entitlement base and entitlement result. Okay, so entitlement result is a major formula which actually returns the deduction amount. Okay, so and it puts an entry, result element entry for each and every day of absence. Okay, so if the requirement, obviously the requirement, the seeded calculation doesn't suffice our purpose, so we usually make the pay value there as 0 and have our calculation logic in another information element if we have to refer to certain balances and if the logic is complex. If the logic is simple, just simply straightforward, refer to the entry values, then we can have our logic written in the entitlement days fast formula. Okay, so these are the only two things majorly we need to keep in mind when we are changing absences fast formulas. Rest all it is fine. Okay. That's it from my side. If you have got any queries, you can definitely ask me or you can write to me. Um, please let me know for any clarifications. If you have any doubts, please, you can ask me now or uh, please let me know. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that is fine. So once you start writing the formula, then definitely you'll come across a lot of scenarios and you'll get to know how to write it. So I'll definitely share all the material what I have. Okay, I'll upload it to our training community so that you can refer the manuals uh, and I'll upload even the sample formula which we have written for different clients. So they'll be handy. Okay. Okay, yeah. Thanks all for attending the session. Then you are free to write to me for on any queries. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you all.